Well, good morning. Looks like it's a little foggy out there. Hope you had a good sleep and are ready for a new day. So let's jump right into our lesson for today. So I'm going to start out with resign now as your own teacher, for you were badly taught. That's a strong statement, yes? The memory of God comes to the quiet mind, not to the mind filled with chatter or angst or anger or even anticipation. Those words describe the majority thoughts and the majority of the people on planet Earth. So we have to be willing to admit that we are wrong about a lot of things. The moment we are emphatic about something, we are no longer quiet and thus no longer in harmony with the divine or with ourself. We are in harmony with the ego, but not with our real self. The strength of God's peace lies in its quietness, calmness, evenness, its unchanging way. There is no love but God's. Perhaps we think that different kinds of love are possible. We have certainly been taught such. Agape love, philia love, eros, and so on. Psychologists tell us that love is a verb. Perhaps we think there is a kind of love for this, a kind of love for that. A way of loving one, another way of loving another. But real love is one. It has no separate parts and no degrees, no kinds, no levels, no divergencies and no distinctions. It is like itself, unchanged throughout. It never alters with a person or a circumstance. It is the heart of God and also of His child. So when we love sometimes and not others, regardless of how holy our love appears to be, it must be coming from our ego and not our right mind. Just like all the definitions out there about what love is. Now, this statement is not meant to make us feel guilty when we look on our own love relationships and realize how variable and changeable they are. And for most of us, they are variable and changeable. So let's realize something. We cannot correct mistakes unless we first realize they exist. So it may be helpful to realize that some things throughout our day, such as how unloving some of our thoughts actually are. That is, we love people when they are kind to us, perhaps not so much when they are not. We learn this as we observe our feelings when interacting with others. And this requires us to be present and not just in a finger-pointing way. What we find is that we see in another that which we choose not to see in ourselves. That further allows us to project our stuff onto others so that we can put on the face of innocence, because after all, we wouldn't do what that other person just did. We're the good guys. But remember from last week, we can only see in another that which we already subconsciously think about ourselves. Now that we can point our fingers at another for being the culprit, while we are the innocent bystander or victim, we can finally justify hate or vengeance, anger or condemnation. And this allows us to avoid responsibility for our changeable love. And so we believe we are good in an evil world. And lots of people are thinking the same thing. But something's wrong with that picture. The face of innocence can grow angry. We are the innocent. For the world is wicked and unable to provide the love and shelter that innocence deserves. And so this face is often wet with tears or wearing of a scowl at the injustices the world accords to those of us who would be generous and good. We never make the first attack, but every day 100 little things make small assaults upon our innocence, provoking us to irritation and at last to open and justifiable insult and abuse of others. The face of innocence the ego self so proudly wears can tolerate attack and self-defense. For is it not a well-known fact that the world deals harshly with defenseless innocence? Thus, we must defend ourselves through attack, our ego tells us. Leaving the phony concept of innocence and returning to the concept of love, it is impossible in this world to love everyone the same way, in form, but not in content. It's impossible to love everyone the same in form, but it's not impossible in content. Love is content, real love, that is. Specialness and special relationships are the triumph of form at the expense of content. Whenever any form of special relationship tempts us to seek love in ritual, remember that love is content, not form of any kind. There is no meaning in form, and never will be. Yet since we are almost exclusively identified with form, our bodies, for instance, it is inconceivable to us that the form of love is irrelevant. We have to have a ceremony, in other words. Otherwise, it's not official. It's not real. So we do not understand love's all-inclusive nature, real love's all-inclusive nature, unless we believe that we can truly love some and not others, or love some more and some less. So when I love you in part, it cannot be love, as the meaning of love lies in its perfect unity, excluding no one and nothing. However, the ego's love is special, partial, changeable, wavering, hot, cold, up, down. You name it, the ego's love is all of it except whole and complete. There is no love but God's, and all of love is His. There is no other principle that rules where love is not. Love is a law without an opposite. Its wholeness is the power holding everything together, the link between the Creator and its creations, which hold them forever as the same. No course whose purpose is to teach us to remember what we really are could fail to emphasize that there can never be a difference in what we really are and what love is. Love's meaning is our own and shared by God itself. For what we are is what He is. There is no love but His, and what He is everything there is. There is no limit placed upon Himself, and so we are unlimited as well. This means that anything that seems outside of love and oneness cannot exist because it is not of God. Well, that's a far-reaching premise or statement, because here is all this crap all around us. It's part of the illusion. So oneness cannot exist because it is not of God. It's another way of understanding that God not only could not have created this world, but knows nothing about it, as it exists only in the wrong mind, the ego mind. To that end, spirit, in its vast knowledge, is unaware of the ego, which frustrates the ego to no end. Now, there is no law the world obeys that can help us grasp the meaning of love. What the world believes was made to hide love's meaning and to keep it dark and secret. There is not one principle the world upholds but violates the truth of what love is and what we are as well. Even quantum physics ultimately ends up in the same ego trap. It says the material world is an illusion. It got that part right. But then says the thoughts underlying the universe are real. The thoughts that we have are not real. They are illusory because they are mostly ego-dominated. Remember, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Spend your time over the next weeks and months figuring that out. Looking in the world to find ourselves ain't gonna happen. Love is not found in darkness and in death. Rather, seeking the truth of ourselves in a place where it can be found is the path to take. The truth can only be found in our own mind, our right mind. That means going inwards, and that's the last thing anybody wants to do. The answer is never out there. Our focus is always on changing content, not form. If we achieve the faintest glimmer of what love means, we will have advanced in distance without measure and in time beyond the count of years. And this is done through practice. As we let go of judgment, we become more open-minded. As we choose to let go of grievances, we become more open-minded. Judgment opens the mind to the ways of the ego, but ultimately shuts the mind, whereas open-mindedness invites spirit to blossom within. As condemnation judges others as evil or bad or wrong, open-mindedness permits others to be viewed from a different level and by another, our real self, our spirit. Ultimately, only the open-minded can be at peace. If you're a judgmental person, you are not at peace. You may feel righteous, but you are not at peace because you are flipping that story around in your head over and over and over. And one of the most judged aspects on this planet is a person's physical body. We can look at ourselves in the mirror and just tear that body apart. But it is not our identification with the body, the separated body, that is the problem. It's our identification with the separated mind, the wrong mind, the ego mind. We believe we are the mind that has thoughts of condemnation, judgment, identification, all aspects of the separated mind known as the ego. And that separated mind leads us to believe we are this body. It is the last thing we are, because we aren't. This is just one of the many ways in which we clutter our minds with idle thoughts that have nothing to do with the truth. And since we are the clutterers of our minds, we are the ones who must unclutter them. All we have to do is exchange the world for heaven. Give up thoughts we currently cling to and believe in for thoughts that are in alignment with the Creator and creation. Jesus did this, Buddha did it, Huang Po did it, Dr. David Hawkins did it, Gary Renard is doing it, and so are thousands and thousands and thousands of other people that you don't know the names of. And so is everyone who is the tiniest bit awakened and giving some effort to moving forward, moving from where they are to a place of higher resonance. And in taking tiny steps, we can be thankful that we are spared a future similar to the past. That is, we are happiest when with spirit than when believing we are all alone. So recognize how we exclude others during our day in both obvious and subtle ways. We separate people into classifications. There are friends, associates, the passers-by, and enemies. Each group is special in some way in our minds, whether it be a special love or a special hate relationship that we have with another. So start out with someone you know, whether you like them a lot, you love them, you dislike them, or you dislike them a lot, or you hate them. Choose one from the classified sections you made up and work with that person in your mind. That person, whether they are on the love side of your balance sheet or the hate side, needs to be regarded by you as a fellow traveler on the same challenging and blessed journey that you are on. See them in that light and bless them also. Do this throughout your day. Stay with the person until you have fully forgiven him or her, especially if you chose someone from the special hate category. And each time that person comes to mind, give this message from your higher self. I bless you with the love of God, which I share with you. For I desire to learn the joyous lesson that there is no love but God's, and yours, and mine, and everyone's. Enjoy this day, everyone. Love to you all.